Hello, everybody. My name is DM Cross, and this is Reflections of the Council. I know you missed us. We were gone for a week, but we're back. This is our live podcast that we stream here every Monday on twitch.tv/Praetor Magic. Today, I'm only joined by Frexian Walker because Hacker's gone MIA. And by
Wait,
MIA,
wait.
I mean fired.
He's not here.
No, we fired him.
I get to
We
go first.
we preemptively fired him.
Yes.
We fired him and then didn't invite him to the call. No, that's not true. In all honesty, I know he wasn't feeling good last week, so hopefully he is working on feeling better. So it's just gonna be us. I even went and changed my shirt because I was wearing my Demir shirt, but I wore my Golgari shirt because if it's gonna be me and Frexian, I might as well fit the part.
That's right. Golgari Brothers.
Although we could have been a Sultai podcast, it wouldn't have been bad.
It wouldn't have been terrible, but I think we all know that just Golgari's the best.
All right. When it comes to Ravnica guilds, you might not be right, but when it comes to just color combinations, you might be. But anyway, so last episode of this podcast, we talked about mistakes that we see people making with deck brewing. One big one that I know I touched on was the grave hate, not basically finding ways to disrupt people like me who like to put things in the graveyard and bring them back out. Frexen, I think you talked a little bit about just answers, right? Like
Answers and mana bases.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember we went on for like 15 minutes about not having enough lands because we talked
Not
about
having enough lands, not having enough utility lands, having too many utility lands, just not balancing the mana base correctly.
Yeah. So because last week we talked on how or the mistakes we see people making when making their decks, this week we're going to start off talking about what we see people doing wrong actually in the game. So let's say you do make your deck and you've made it properly. You do have the right kind of lands, right number of utility lands, enough basics to supply for your fetching, etc., etc. But then you get to the table and you screw it all up because you play your lands out front, you don't fetch the right colors, you keep bad hands, etc., so on and so forth. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and actually, that's a good place to start. I think is not mulliganing properly.
Yes.
I think people feel like starting with fewer cards is worse than starting with a more secured hand. A lot of
And
times.
I do feel like that goes back to improper deck building. Because if you build your deck with enough card draw within the deck, then it's not as big an issue to not start with 7 cards. Now, if there's not enough card draw and you're relying on those 7 cards too much, then it can be a really big disadvantage to go down to 6 or 5 instead.
Yeah, I think I kind of counter to your point. I agree with you to an extent, but I think there are just points where you just get a bad starting hand or like even a bad couple of mulligans. Maybe you don't shuffle properly or something like that, or you're just not having a good night to start with.
Or MTGO hates you.
I was gonna say, I was like, especially if you're shufflers MTGO or Arena for that matter. But yeah, I think there are times where people do get a bad starting hand and they mulligan. Let's say the first time, right? So they mulligan the first time and on MTGO, your first one's free in a 4-player commander game. And then like they're afraid to go down to 6. Like they're afraid to start with fewer resources than everybody else. So they keep a hand that either doesn't have a color or only has 2 lands and then 3 drops, and they're like, oh, there's a good chance I'll draw into it by the 3rd turn, and then they don't, and then they sit there and they're miserable playing crab that never wants to friggin' work because all you get is 3 lands the whole game.
It was 2 lands.
It was 3.
Eventually you got to 3.
No,
you had 2 for a long
eventually
time.
I got to 4. Like right at the end of the game, I got the 4.
It was.
I remember.
I think we've all done that though. Or like you sit on one. I have a bad tendency of like being like, I have 2 lands, but I have ramp on 3. So as long as I draw that 3rd land, and it works out a lot of the time. It does. Like probably 70% of the time it works out, but the other 30% when it doesn't work out and you're on turn 8 and you're like, why did I do this to myself?
Yeah. What have I even done this game, or why did I even stay in the game, or like even shuffle up in the first place?
Yeah.
So
it can definitely be so it is like proper mulliganing, proper like hand analysis of that first hand. Like, is this hand actually gonna play well? Does this hand have options that are going to draw me more cards? Does this hand have options that are going to ramp me? Does this hand have options to remove other things, like threats?
Yeah.
Like, you need to be looking for some of those things.
I think I would keep a hand that didn't necessarily have removal, as long as it either had ramp or
Draw.
card advantage. Just in general, because I would even say more card advantage than ramp. Like I'm more concerned about the card advantage because there's like card advantage is kind of the first footfall to everything else. If I can get more cards, those cards might be the ramp I need. Those cards might be the lands I need. Those cards might be the removal I need.
Pew Pew said seeing ramp that needs just one more land is a big one.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have the card draw, right? You want card draw, you want card advantage, but a lot of time you do see that ramp and you're like, man, my commander's a comma. Right, Pew Pew.
Yeah.
Cost a butt ton of mana. I have to ramp here. And there's that ramp I see, and if I can just hit that ramp, then I'll hit my next ramp, and I'll hit my next ramp, and Zakama will come out on turn 5, and the whole table will fear me. But then you miss land for
You're
3,
really
4
upset
times.
with the Zakama, aren't you?
No, it's fine.
Just...
It's fine. I'm just saying I know that's a commander he plays, like in
Yeah.
3DH, so it's one of those ones where when you're playing those more expensive commanders, ramp becomes almost as important as card draw.
Yeah. I think also
But
some people will get hung up on seeing a key piece in their hand, like a key piece of their strategy. So if you're running, I'm trying to think of something in particular. All right, so when I was running like my Whispered Blood Liturgist deck, if I were to see the Thornbite Staff in my opening hand, do I really want to get rid of Thornbite Staff, which is basically the 2-card combo? And granted, I need things to make tokens to
yeah,
cycle through and everything, but do I really want to get rid of Thornbite Staff when I have it in my opening hand, even if maybe I don't have like good card draw or something like that? Because like
I think
go ahead.
I think another big card people fall into that trap with is things like Soul Ring or Mana Crypt or stuff like that,
Yeah.
where they have that one card, and it's like, yeah, this one card, this fast mana gets me there, or this gets me there.
Mm-hmm. Another important thing when you're running like or starting with a Soul Ring is if your deck has a lot of colored symbols in the mana cost. If you're keeping Soul Ring, that still might not get you anywhere. If
Yeah.
like if your 3-drop is, let's say, is Yavimaya Elder 1 green?
Yeah, it's 1 green.
Yeah. So if your 3-drop is Yavimaya Elder and you're starting with a Forest and a Soul Ring, you still can't cast Yavimaya Elder. So Soul Ring's great to have, but if most of your cards are double green or double black or double whatever, then you need the mana, like the colored mana, more than anything. So keeping a Soul Ring just right off the bat is not helping you almost at all.
Oh no, yeah, it can be just actively bad, but people see Soul Ring, and they're like, it's such a good card that they keep.
And it's because of the statistics, right? Like how many people always hear that when somebody gets a turn 1 Soul Ring, that person runs away with the game until maybe eventually everybody kind of teams up and curtails them a little bit or whatever. Yeah. But it's not a 100% success rate that Soul Ring or even Mana Vault or whatever is going to get you to where you need to go immediately.
Yeah, because colored mana can be just as important. A card I have a tendency to do it with too is Phyrexian Altar.
Yeah.
Like, Phyrexian Altar in the decks I run it in is such a big part of the deck that if I have Phyrexian Altar in my opening hand, I tend to really not want to throw that hand away, even if I'm like, it only has 2 lands. I'm missing a color.
Yeah.
What am I doing? Phyrexian Altar. It's like, I know I need to pitch it, and usually I do, but
You do get that moment of like, maybe it'll work out. Maybe the RNG gods are smiling down upon me.
Yeah. Maybe I have done proper sacrifice to Richard Garfield in the last week.
No, you sacrifice after you play altar.
And he will bestow.
Now, all right, listen here, you don't just get to say mechanic names and then like you don't get to do that.
I do. I just did. Hey, the jokes don't get any better. We said it. I'm sticking with that theme for tonight.
Yeah. Oh God. Quick, everybody get out before we make more bad jokes.
So let's say they get past this point and they mulligan correctly and they get a decent starting hand. Where do you think the next pitfall comes for most players?
Sequencing.
There you go, sequencing. That's exactly where I was going. Tune, man, you get rid of this guy who likes mono white, and all of a sudden the things just flow together so perfectly.
You know what? It's actually sad because sequencing was one of the big things I had in mind for this topic, because I remember back when we were playing 3DH together and I was playing my Lathish Dragon Queen deck,
Yeah,
and there was basically a person who demonstrated they had a combo, like an infinite combo. It was like a Curio Cloudstone combo, and said, "Oh, well, I'm not going to do it, blah, blah, blah. This turn, I'll just, I'll give people like a chance to try to stop me or kill me." And I looked at my board and I'm like, I have lethal on him with a card in my hand. I had a dragon that I just had to play and kill him with. But I had to give it haste, but I already had lightning greaves on the field. So we get to my turn. I tell everybody, hey, don't board wipe or whatever, and I think I can stop them. They were tapped out. Play the dragon. Do something else like random. It wasn't a big deal, but it was like a thing I just wanted to do. Like I ticked up a planeswalker or something. Go into my combat phase, and I'm like, why can't I attack with my, oh my god, I forgot to put the stupid boots on the stupid dragon.
yeah. And people miss sequence plays like that so many times. It's so easy to do. Or like another thing with sequencing a lot of times is people miss the fact that unless your creature has haste, you really don't want to play things before combat.
Yeah.
You don't want to play anything before combat unless it has to be played. Unless there's a reason to play it before your combat phase, you want to play it in your second main. And people, including myself, all the time, don't do that correctly. We play stuff out in our first main phase and risk like an instant speed Cyclonic Rift or something, just really jacking us up.
I think it's funny that you mentioned Cyclonic Rift, because that brings me to another thing that I think happens sometimes pretty early on in the game, and even mid game and late game as well. But people get afraid to play into counters, or in the answers in general, right? Like somebody, like I leave up a white mana, and I'm the scariest person at the table, and somebody's like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna hit you with my big commander." Like, let's go back to the Zakama reference, and I'm gonna hit you with Zakama next turn. Okay, well, I have my white mana, so we'll see. And then they're like, "Oh, well, maybe I don't want to play that because my Zakama costs a whole bunch of mana, and I don't want him to just Swords of Plowshare or Path to Exile me."
Yeah.
But if you don't do it and you choose to do something else, like I have just basically forced you to make a play that was not optimal for you, especially if I'm the person in the lead. So now I have basically intimidated you, and there's also another layer to this that we don't talk about a lot in Magic because it's not a mechanical thing, but there's a mental level to this, right? I knew I could intimidate you just by leaving up a white mana. So I can keep doing that throughout the game just to kind of have that advantage on you, because I know that you're susceptible to it.
It's kind of like the game we played on Friday night, right? When I was just he was holding up rendered silent, ignoring your two turns, like just letting you two go, and then coming around to my turn, third person after him, holding up that render silent. It's like, I'm gonna play something that I know you have to counter or that you'll think you have to counter because I want you to use it. I don't want to go to the next turn and you still have a render silent. So I play an Ugin. He's like, "Why would you play an Ugin? I don't know why you'd play an Ugin when you know I have a render silent." He's like, "I'm not gonna let that resolve." And I'm like, "Because I want you to use the counter. Like, I want to play out the counter. I want to bait it out and get it out of your hand." I'm like, because I also still have other planeswalkers and other things in my hand that I can do with. Now, I got in the unfortunate cycle of he kept on being able to return the render silent with different things. But so I got in the unfortunate scenario where I was just stuck. But at some point, you have to play out their answers. You have to make them use their answers because otherwise the answers are already there. It's kind of like the rule on Psych Rift, Evacuation, Aetherize, whatever they have.
Yeah.
They've got the men up for it. You got to make them use it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's like they always have that answer in their back pocket. And a lot of times people lose the game that way.
If you don't force the response, basically all you do is you get to give them a free pass. So it's another turn where they can do everything but, let's again say, the white mana for Path, or the 3 mana for Render Silent, or the whatever mana for like Aether Spouts or Aetherize or whatever. They can play everything else that they want except for the mana for that, and they can keep doing it. And again, it comes back to a mental state where they know that you're going to play differently, more to their strength. Like, you're going to play in a way that they want more than the way that you want to end that game. So there's a very big, and it's something again that we don't talk that much about when it comes to playing Magic, because people are so concerned with what the cards do and how they interact with each other. But because it's a social game, there's a psychological layer to Magic, which is. Go ahead.
Yeah, there is, and like I had a game one time where I was playing with a friend, and we were just playing 1v1 for fun, Commander, and I had Forbid in my hand.
Mm.
And so he was playing a Xenagos deck. So he plays Xenagos, I forbid it, I buy it back for 2 cards. And then he proceeded to not be willing to play Xenagos the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he wouldn't play Xenagos because he knew I had forbid. I was leaving up to 3 mana, and he's like, you'll just forbid again. I'm like, that's the one card you should be playing. Because if I forbid again, great, it's still there. And I just burned 2 more cards to buy back forbid, and eventually I'm going to run out of cards. I'm like, eventually I'm going to hit the case where I can't afford to keep buying back forbid. I can't afford to keep doing this. And then you aren't losing any resources, really. Yes, your commander's going to cost more, but you aren't really losing resources from your hand or anything. You're building resources in your hand while I'm draining resources from myself to keep your commander off the field.
One of the worst responses,
but people don't see it that way, right?
Yeah. One of the worst responses I hate to that situation, though, is, well, my deck doesn't do anything without its commander. And that's this is something that I don't think we did talk about it in the last episode, but we should have, is contingency planning.
Yeah.
Which goes into gameplay a little bit too, and this goes back to, again, when I played Whisper Blood Liturgist on Magic Online Commander League, which is on the youtube.com/Praetor Magic channel. I think it was the 2nd episode for season 2. I got so focused in the Thornbite Whisper combo that when I went back and I was like editing it, and then I was watching it even again afterward, I was like, wow, I could have won the game like 2 turns earlier if I had just not worried about doing Thornbite staff, and I think recurred Kakusho or Gary a couple times. I could have ended that game sooner. And I did win that game, but it was a lot closer than it needed to be, and a lot more drawn out than it needed to be, because I got so tunnel vision into doing my commander's thing. So your deck needs to be able to have multiple outs, and you need to be able to play to those multiple outs all the time, even if there's a forbid on the field. And another part I want to bring up, because you brought up forbid, is constant mist. Just because, again, the buyback is sacrifice a land. So, yeah, I can fog you every turn for a while, but eventually it's going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you, because you're probably going to keep getting lands, whereas I'm going to keep losing lands. Even in, a heavy ramp deck, you're still sacrificing your lands. You're still sacrificing your resources. You're still not getting ahead. You're still either staying kind of the same because you're ramping, or falling behind because the other person might be ramping up, or just getting more answers, or just playing more threats, etc. And eventually you're just going to have to drop it.
Yeah.
I went on a tangent. I apologize.
Oh no, it was sort of in there.
Yeah. Clicky said, I don't understand how Xenagos doesn't do anything with him. It's still a deck of huge fatties. Yeah, that's kind of the thing, is that a Gruul big creatures that hit you in the face very hard deck should still just be playing big creatures hitting you in the face very hard. Or the opponent, I should say. So Xenagos is just kind of getting you there quicker.
Give him haste and make him bigger.
Yeah.
But still.
Oh. Yes, Clicky says, in reference to the constant mist, is talking about the Gitrog monster, which, yes, obviously the Gitrog monster, when you sacrifice the land, you get to draw a card. So there's a much better chance of you stabilizing, but then you're going a little bit, not but people, that's too detailed of a scenario. Because constant mist with a Tatiova deck, right? Where you're going to be ramping really hard, and those ramps are going to draw you into more answers. Same thing. So.
Yeah, I mean, those are the decks you see Consumist in the most. Is your Tachovias, your Gitrogs, your Omnas, the ones that have so many lands that they're like, eh.
Yeah.
And then they have the ways to be like, boom, I'm gonna bring them all back.
Your Multanis, Muldrotha.
Yeah.
Yes.
Multani, Muldrotha, Lord
I'll sack a
Windgrace.
land. Of course I'll sack a land. I'm going to bring them back on my turn anyway.
Yeah. They're gonna keep coming back. Your Titanias. Oh, I'll sack a land. I get a 5/3 when I do it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good
it's
one.
It's like any of those. It's like there are definitely decks where it's good to run it, but hey, right? Once again, why should mass line destruction be? Oh wait, no. We aren't on that topic, right?
No. Maybe that is the next thing we talk about is not playing enough land destruction, but we'll have to wait for Hacker to come back.
Yeah, so he can give the counter.
So it's always funny, right? He's the. I mean, we didn't even make our opening joke actually. What's the biggest mistake you can make when playing Magic? Playing mono white.
Yeah, playing mono white. Yeah.
Without land destruction. It's always funny because he's like the mono white or the Azorius player, and he doesn't believe he believes in hating on non-basic lands, but not lands in general. I'm like, yeah, your colors do this thing.
Yeah. And yeah.
I think a mistake some people do make though during gameplay is having an answer and not being willing to use it.
Whether it's like because you're afraid of angering that one player. Like I see that a lot. Like when I like particularly I see it more I guess when I'm playing from the power position and it's like people have an answer to my thing and I'm like you don't want to remove my thing because if you remove my thing, here's what I'm going to do to you. They're like, "Oh, you're right. I don't want to remove your thing." And I'm like, "But by allowing them to do that, whoever's in that power position, you just allowed them to remain in the more powerful position because you're choosing not to use your answer." Or they're like making a deal with the most powerful person at the table, be like, "Okay, I won't remove your stuff as long as you leave me alone." Well, okay, but you're just letting them sit there being the most powerful person and getting more powerful when you could be answering the things they're doing in an effort to try to prevent them from coming after you at all.
Yeah. I think
which I think is one of the points Hacker was making, right? Was bad deals and being able to recognize when a deal's bad. But I see people like offer bad deals all the time to me. It's like, sure, I'll take that deal. That's a terrible deal, but I'll take it.
You know, one thing that's actually like outside of the game style upset me before when it comes to deals when people and you can see this if you go back through again the Magic Online Commander League episodes on youtube.com/Praetor Magic. People offer me deals and I'm like, that deal doesn't do anything. And I think it's because I don't like to waste the time or like to like get tied into a deal that's unnecessary. But there's been deals where like if you don't do a thing, I won't mess with you. But if I tried to do the thing, you would stop me because you had time to respond.
Yeah.
And it's always like, well, I'm just trying to get it so that you don't like combo out or wipe the field or suddenly win the game next turn while I try to deal with the person who looks scarier than you at this moment. And I'm like, but I can't just do that thing without you having a chance to respond. So even if I don't agree and I do the thing to try to win and you stop me, where did I get myself? Then the deal wouldn't have mattered anyway. If I don't do the thing and you go about your day, or if I try to do the thing and you stop me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, and like that's not exactly necessarily bad gameplay. It's just unnecessary. But I feel like
it's like I want to make double super secret sure that you aren't going to do anything that's going to hurt me in any way, shape, or form while I try to hurt them.
I think the way I would tie it into bad gameplay is that it's a distraction, right? Like you get so distracted by what the person who you think is scary or about to be scary could do that you don't handle the thing right now. Without thinking, I'm gonna have a chance to respond to that. And sometimes it comes into understanding the cards and the interactions. Maybe that doesn't always happen properly. Sometimes it goes from the person who you're trying to make that deal with, like not realizing what they have on the field. Because that's happened before. Like somebody's tried to make a deal with me. I'm like, you don't have to make that deal with me because I can't do what you're saying. And then I look later, I'm like, I definitely could have done that. I see what you're seeing now. I'm just seeing it too late.
Or like even like in the again, I'll come back to our game from Friday night when I was playing the Super Friends deck, and Super Friends deck can do really scary things. But my Super Friends deck really wasn't doing very scary things because I kept on drawing lands. And yet for some reason the other two players like laser locked onto me, and you're having like 10-minute turns where you're dropping 20 tokens and drawing all these cards and doing all this stuff, and they're just like Super Friends. And I'm like, at one point, I think he even said, he has 15 cards in hand. He has a huge board state. If you pass turn to him and don't have one of your counter spells or removal for what he's about to do to you, if you don't have a board wipe yourself or don't keep this counter spell, he's just going to overwhelming stampede or triumph of the hordes, and then everybody dies.
And then I did it.
And then in the end of the game, you did it, and you did overwhelming triumph of the hordes and overwhelming stampede. You got both. And they both died, and I'm like, see? What did I tell you? I'm like, and here I am. I'm the one person who has all the board wipes and the one person who has the removal. And even though they're trying to kill me, I'm still trying to make the optimal play. So I'm trying to keep you down, which maybe I should have said screw it and let you kill him a lot sooner. But
Listen, first of all, I don't
because
like
there's
how
definitely
you,
when I did the last board wipe, I was just like, I really don't even want to do this board wipe, but I'm just trying to like find some way to stay in this game.
First of all, I don't appreciate you drawing attention to me when I'm doing things. Like, you leave me alone. I did nothing to you most of that game because, to be fair, you didn't do anything most of that game. You were too busy being quiet.
I mean, I just drew cards. That's what I did. I drew a lot of cards, I guess. I didn't draw near as many cards as you did.
Well, I drew
That's
my
all.
deck.
I had Jace just drawing cards, drawing cards, drawing cards, drawing cards, drawing cards.
I did draw my whole deck, so yes.
Yeah.
Nobody drew as many cards as I did.
Well, you did get it like probably 15 to 20 cards milled with Altar of the Brood like the rest of us.
I was about to say that was everybody though, so that was
Yeah,
all
that was
equal.
everybody.
That was all equivalent exchange.
Yeah.
As they say, copyright? Maybe, I don't know.
But just those things where it's like you get so focused on someone because their deck could do something really scary, or like that's a Prosh deck, and Prosh is super scary, and Prosh is really doing things. And then the Prosh deck gets stuck on 4 or 5 lands and can't play Prosh. It's like, that's a Prosh deck. I still have to keep the Prosh deck down. And then over here, you have, a commander that's not as well known. Let's say Krav.
Why?
Like, not as known for being degenerate, but is doing great things and drawing lots of cards and gaining life and everything else. And it's like, okay, yes, this commander is known to be more scary, but in this particular game, like, I guess one big mistake of commander gameplay is going in there with all those ideas of what it is before, like not just analyzing the situation as it is, but looking at like, oh, this commander is really scary, or oh, that card is really good. Because like Danny in the MOCLV video I was in this season, is that one out yet? Before I talk about it,
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So in that video, she played a Phyrexian Altar, and it's like Phyrexian Altar is really scary, but I don't know that she ever used it.
She used it like
Maybe
once or twice.
Like once or twice, but like, so it's like, yeah, she has a Phyrexian Altar, but okay. Yeah, that card can be really scary, but okay, it's not getting used. Like, yeah, she has a scary card sitting on the battlefield, but nothing's happening with it.
Yeah. To be fair, most of that game, I don't think she had creatures.
No, she didn't. Until the very end when she had all the creatures from stealing my Genesis Wave, and then I killed her for it. Before she killed all of us, ironically, but we didn't know that at the time.
No, we didn't know until she was dead.
Until she was dead, and she's like, I could have killed all you! Wow. But, so...
That's actually, not in the way that you're saying it, as far as Danny did in that episode, but that is something that I have seen in games where people will, I think, forget that they're in the middle of the game and that people have answers, and they'll either get, I don't want to say they'll brag, but they'll kind of talk about their plan out loud. Like they'll do the evil villain monologue thing.
Yeah.
Like, well, I think what I'm gonna do is this, and blah 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 blah. And you're like, there's 3 people who might have answers, and now we all know to keep them for you because of what you might do. Especially and I've done it myself, right? So I'm not, like, projecting this on anybody else, but I'm gonna have a good next turn. Or
It's
like
like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna play this one thing that costs 3 mana and pass turn with 7, 8 mana open. Oh,
yeah,
hey, you're go.
yeah. Or like I'm just gonna keep blue up. That
Yeah,
simple. You know what I mean? Because people get excited, right? And again, there's a psychological level to Magic in the sense, especially in Commander, when there are so many people who can interact with you, is that you can't just fly off the handle and talk about the things that you're excited about doing, right? Like a poker player wouldn't talk about how if they draw the ace, they're going to have the full house. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's because then nobody's gonna, unless they're bluffing, maybe. But I think most times when I see people doing the whole like, oh man, my next turn is going to be so good, it's not a bluff. They're just legitimately excited and they don't understand that they're giving away information.
They're giving away information and they're making themselves a target.
Yeah. So I think that's definitely like a big blunder that a lot of
Because the
people
second
commit.
I hear that, I'm like, okay, what do I have in my hand that can screw them over currently, or what do I have in my hand that's instant speed interaction to hurt them on their turn?
Yeah. Like what, and then you like start psychoanalyzing their field too, right? Like
Yeah,
so when Danny to go back to that scenario, right? So Danny, the episode that we're talking about is the gifted deck episode where Danny was playing a Zancha deck that I built for her. She had out Stolen Strategy, which stole Phyrexian's Genesis Wave, which she did for like 12 or for 13, something like that. She
and
started
Phyrexian was
basically,
sad.
yes, you had a lot of mana too, so I wouldn't have wanted you to have Genesis Wave either.
I
Um,
wanted that Genesis wave.
I didn't want anybody to have that Genesis Wave, to be honest with you. Like I wouldn't have even wanted me to have that Genesis Wave. I wasn't even in a good position to Genesis Wave. Um, but so Danny started talking about how like, oh, if something works the way I think it is, my next turn is going to be good. Now at the time she wasn't saying like, oh, I'm going to kill everybody or anything like that. She just said that her next turn would be good. And it became a lot more like we were analyzing her field and we came to realize that she had a Dictate of the Twin Gods out. So me having built the deck for her, my instant fear was that she was going to have Exsanguinate. But I
Yeah,
didn't think she had the mana for it. But then you got to realize that she had Mana Flare. And I didn't even realize it until after she was dead. But like, as you went to attack her, I was like, what could she do that's going to kill us all? Because we were at decent life totals. We
yeah,
were in
we were
like the
pretty hefty.
20s at the
Yeah,
lowest. And I mean like mid to high 20s. So like what could she do that's going to kill us from this point? And then I'm like, oh, she has like 30 mana on the field because of Mana Flare. And because of having Genesis waved out 4 more lands, which is 8 mana with Mana Flare. Plus the fact that she was already able to Genesis Wave for 12, which means she already had 15 mana on the field, so 8 more. That 15 was essentially 30. So yeah, she had 40 mana. It took me a second to realize as she was, basically being attacked and killed, I'm like, oh, she was going to win the next turn. And then sure
and
enough,
then
she
she,
says, I had Exsanguinate in my hand, and I didn't know if it worked with Dictate of the Twin Gods, which, by the way, I think it does.
it was also a thing where in that moment, you were doing some scary, super friendly planeswalker things,
I don't know what you're
and
talking
John had
about.
been scary until I had wiped his board.
Yeah,
And then there was Danny, who still had a lot of scary on the field. So like when I'm deciding who to attack, it's like who is the most scary? And then Danny's saying things like, "I'm gonna have a really good turn next turn," like stuff like that. And I'm like, Danny goes right after me in turn order. She's about to have a really good turn.
yeah. Do you want her
Maybe
to
I just
have?
kill her. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe I just kill her right now when I can, as opposed to if she has a really good turn, I might not even have the option. You know, when I if I get to untap again, I
yeah.
might not even have the option to kill her.
And I think as we were even looking at her board state right before she died too, we were like, "Oh, you have Master of Cruelties." Because John and I were going back and forth. This is, I think, one of the times where he was like asking me to not do something that I couldn't do
Yeah,
anyway without him having some kind of response. So he was like, "Give me a reason why I should be more worried about Danny than you if I think you have a combo to win the game." And I'm like, "Danny has Master of Cruelties out along with Fate Unraveler or something like that, where and like a Rogue's Passage or something like that. So Rogue's Passage, Master of Cruelty attacks you, puts you at 1, you go to draw your card, you die. That's why you're scared of Danny because she can kill anybody, and that's before she died, and I was analyzing her field, trying to find a reason not to kill me. I'm like, yeah, she has a kill on anybody with those 2 cards, unless you can remove them before the triggers go on the stack.
Yeah.
So, like, again, saying, oh, I'm going to have a fun turn next turn kind of makes it look like, oh, key to the city. I'm sorry, it was key to the city.
Yeah.
Thank you, Piku. But yeah, saying like, oh, I'm going to have a fun turn, and then, like, people start really looking at what you had on the field, and you're like, oh, you can do, like, you can do kind of whatever you want. So, don't talk about what you're going to do in the future. Let it be a surprise, unless you're making a deal, a good deal.
Another thing I think people make a mistake of when playing Commander is they forget sometimes that there's a future.
Yeah.
Not even just within the game, but also in future games. So I mean it in both contexts though. I mean there's a future within the game. So like if you are doing things and making plays that are going to make people angry and stuff like that, there are going to be consequences for it within the game. But also, like, in terms of the future, like, if you're making a deal and saying, hey, I'm not going to do this thing, and then you break this deal, and we've all done it. We've all made deals and had buyer's remorse, and then we've been like, some of us are like, dude, I'm so sorry I have to break this deal, but I feel like you're going to win if I don't. And then some of us are just like, oh, well, deal breaker. There you go. So, I mean, obviously one's a better way to go about it than the other, but either way, you've broken your word and broken your deal.
Yeah. I think if you make a deal that's winning you the game, which means you're quote unquote killing somebody, if you make a deal with that, you know that that's going to happen, but they don't. I think that's a deal made in bad faith, because nobody's going to make a deal to lose the game. Nobody should.
Yeah.
Make a deal to lose the game. So if you make it, if you Frexy make a deal with me, and you know that you're going to win the game off of it, and then as you go to do it, I have a response to it, and I realize what you're doing, then yeah, okay, we made a deal, but I didn't make that deal thinking that I was gonna lose. I made that deal thinking,
hey, Seth, you want to not touch my stuff for 2 turns, and then I won't touch your stuff for 2 turns. And you're like, sure.
Yeah.
And then I play the Staff of Domination, and you're like, wait, no, I'm going to counterspell that because that's infinite mana, infinite card draw, and you just win.
Yeah.
It's like, but we made a deal.
Yeah, but yeah, you made that deal in a much different frame of mind than I did. You intentionally
bamboozled me here, and just are expecting me to now abide by a deal like I didn't see the line. But I mean, that is a point that Hacker was making, like in our chat discussions before last week when we had to cancel because of me. That he was making that point, like the buyer beware of deals. Like, make sure you're really analyzing the deal and you're really hashing out the deal. Like, when someone says, hey, don't touch my stuff for 2 turns, you have to be like, okay, caveat, I won't mess with your stuff for 2 turns, and you don't mess with my stuff, and we have this little alliance, unless add those clauses on, add those caveats on of, and if you can't agree to this, then we don't have a deal. Yeah. Like,
I don't know. I feel like you shouldn't have to add that. Like, that should just be standard fine print. And for people,
but there's still going to be hurt feelings from some people if you don't.
Then because if I do it to you, now let's write the situation where Staff of Domination you were going to play and I countered it. If I go to do something similar and you stop me, and you bring up, well, you were going to win the game, and isn't that what you said to me? Then I have to sit there and basically be like, you got me. You found me out. Right? Like, so if you counter Thornbite Staff in Whisper, yeah, I mean, it's the same situation. So as long as everybody, like, you have to be obviously fair-minded about it. You can't be like, oh, well, I did it to you, but you can't do it to me because I did it differently than you did. No. If you're trying to win the game with a deal, and somebody breaks the deal because you're gonna win, that's fair play. This is always like one of the things that I hate to bring up or like hate to say, because everybody's like, oh, you nerd, you take it that seriously. But in a game of Magic, the idea or the concept, right, the theme of the game is that there's a bunch of people trying to kill each other, right? That's why we call it a life total. Your life goes from 40, which means you're healthy as can be walking onto the battlefield, to down to 0 where you're dead. I'm not going to go up into a fight with somebody, even if it was like an arranged, organized, like sporting event fight and say, yes, I will make a deal saying I won't block my face and you can hit me 10 times. Thinking
You
that,
beat the crap out of my poor dear face.
yeah, saying that, oh, I'm going to pull my punches so that I don't knock you out. And then all of a sudden you put brass knuckles on. I'm not going to keep to that deal. Because if you're going to pull your punches but have brass knuckles on, you're probably either going to friggin' brain me and kill me, or you're gonna knock me out and you're gonna win. So why would I continue with that deal? That doesn't make any sense. If your life was on the line in real
Because
life,
it's
you
the
wouldn't do that.
honorable thing to do.
It's not honorable to die a fool. I'm sorry.
Ooh,
That's the reality.
That's
It's
pretty
not
good.
honorable
That's a pretty
to
good
die a
quote
fool.
there. That's a pretty good little quote there. I'll grant you that one.
You like that? I just came up with that.
You got there.
I got there. We did it. We did it, chat.
Bad jokes, but one good.
I'm gonna put that on a shirt.
Good quote.
Praetor Magic t-shirt. It's not honorable to die a fool.
Just make sure it's not copyrighted first.
I'm gonna copyright it.
Make sure no one else said it. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, Ben, going back to the thing, like if you're making deals, and it's not in those situations where it's like, oh yeah, okay, you're gonna I'm gonna lose the game from this, you're gonna win the game from this, or even in the situation of, hey, I know I made this deal with you, but I have the way to win the game now. I'm not gonna honor our deal if it means I don't win now.
Whew. It's a little bit harder, like, so if your draw makes you win the game, but winning the game involves you reining in on the deal.
Are you saying that one's different?
No, I think you still just win. Because again, like, if you don't do it and you risk somebody having the response later on, then your honorable action made you lose. Right? So again, same
Maybe you were meant to lose
quote.
then. Maybe you were just meant to lose.
No. I don't know. I don't know if you've seen how I play Magic, but I try to win all the time. Even when I sequence badly and I forget to put boots on a stupid friggin' dragon.
Which is often.
Hey, it was one time, sir.
For the boots on the dragon.
What was the other stupid thing I did the other day? Oh, I went to tap something to put a counter on a creature that already had a counter on it, but the creature didn't have a counter on it. That was good.
Yes. Yes, you did.
And I looked at my...
You tap the thing to try to put a counter on the creature that didn't have a counter. Required it to already have a counter on to work. What is it, animation module?
Something like that. I don't remember. Yeah, animation module sounds right.
And you tried to go for the creature that didn't have a 1/1 counter as opposed to the one that did?
Yep, because I could have put it on Gyre Sage, I think.
It was something. I can't remember which card it was, but yeah, you had a creature with a 1/1 counter and one without, and you targeted the one without.
Thinking that I could spread the counters out, but that's not how that card works.
I guess that's another mistake in playing Magic, though, is read your card. Reading the card explains the card to people.
Listen here, Professor. No,
hey, he's not wrong.
It is a really good point, though. You're right. He's not wrong, and I think a lot of the time people, I mean, even look at like the more famous shows and stuff like that. We've seen Jeremy and Josh Lee Kwai and Jimmy Wong and I'm trying to think of the other show now. What's the other big show?
Loading Ready Run.
But like even like Stephen Green, Justin, John Suarez, and like all the guests on Commander Versus and Commander Clash and Game Nights, right? They've all had instances where they go to do a thing and they're like, oh wait, that doesn't do what I thought it did. Oops. And then like you kind of just sit there and you're sad because you made this whole play and now it didn't or amount to anything or result in anything that you needed because the card doesn't work that way. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah.
Reading the card.
Or the one Commander Versus episode where they played out that entire sequence, reading Zulaport, Cutthroat, and Blood Artist incorrectly, like assuming they did the same thing.
Oh yeah.
And then they went back and were like, well, we'll just say that this was always the Zulaport Cutthroat and this was always the Blood Artist, and just like switched them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Which is really, I mean, obviously that was more for resolution of the issue than anything. because
Yeah.
they are essentially the same creature. The creature types are a little different. That's about it, and obviously their effects. But I mean, like
Yeah.
other than that, so if Blood Artist was the 7th card down as opposed to Zulip or Cutthroat, it wouldn't have mattered. But
Yeah.
yeah, like God, I'm trying to remember. There was a recent example, and I just rewatched the episode where somebody went to do something. It was a Commander versus. Oh, there you go. Stephen Green went to Snapcaster Mage a Crush of Tentacles, and you cannot surge a card if you're casting with flashback because you can't do 2 alternative costs. You got to pick one. Either you're flashing it back or you're surging it. Obviously, you
Yeah.
can't surge it without flashback, but then you can't surge it for flashback. And because Crush of Tentacles says if the surge cost was played, get an 8/8 octopus. When he put the octopus on the field, and then Justin recurred a meteor golem to kill the octopus token, that was like the break where it didn't like it had an effect on the game because Justin wouldn't have gotten meteor golem back with I think Marin uh, to get rid of that token if the token had never existed. There was nothing else to kill because Crush of Tentacles had bounced everything back to everybody's hands. So
Yeah.
like stuff like that is and they this isn't so much a reading the card as understanding this interaction of alternative costs. Like you can't do 2 alternative costs. And a lot of people I think don't know that because it doesn't come up a lot.
Yeah, and there are things like that though that's like not even something that like the average player knows.
Yeah.
Or especially if you have like lower like starting out players, there's a lot of stuff they don't know. So they don't know how things work. And that's one thing that is one good thing about like Magic Online and you know,
Yeah.
Arena is that they don't let you do those things.
Yeah. Well, but still, you might make those plays and then be stuck and locked into them. So
Yeah.
there's really, and with MTGO, there's not too much you can do because there is a match timer. So it's not like you can sit there and Google for long periods of time to try to figure out if you have the right answer or not. Arena, there's obviously the rope thing, so it's hard to say what the answer is in those situations. But when it comes to kitchen table magic and you're just playing around, in paper, I think uh, as long as your group's okay with it, obviously taking the time to try to figure out the rules. But again, I don't know if people would even think to bring that up if they don't understand the alternative cost dilemma. You know what I mean? Because if you
Yeah.
don't, if you don't know that's even a thing, why would you even question it? They only knew because I think John caught it after. No, John caught that you can't surge and flashback. So Steven's immediate thing was, well, then I'll just pay the regular cost and whatever, and missed the fact that the octopus token is only when you surge it.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of alternative cost and then reading the full line of text of the card. So with them, obviously it's a little different. They're trying to play to an audience, and you don't want to sit there and try to. Yeah, Chad did catch that one later on. They caught that he shouldn't have had the token. Uh, but playing for an audience is again a little different. It's kind of hard to. It's hard to play in front of people sometimes. Like you just you rush. You don't put your greaves on the stupid dragon because you just want to get the combat and try to kill the combo player so you can continue with the rest of the game.
And enjoy your nice fun time.
I'm not salty. You're salty. Shut up. Don't make fun of me. Or do whatever. But
Dr. Pew Pew says it was chat that caught it.
yeah, that's what I was responding to when I said that Chat figured out he shouldn't have the token.
Yeah.
Suarez caught that he can't surge and flashback, but nobody realized that the token only comes from the surge cost.
Oh.
All right.
But
Well, I think. Is there anything major you think that we didn't think about?
not that I can think of. I mean, chat hasn't brought up anything unless there is something.
Just play better. Like everybody, just play better, especially you
Play
first.
better, consider these options. Oh, I will say one of my biggest pet peeves in terms of sequencing
Hmm.
is the people who board wipe before they attack. Like they have the opportunity to attack. They know they're
Yeah.
going to board wipe. They have creatures that can attack, and they board wipe and don't attack first.
That could
Drives
be.
me insane.
That could be a little bit of political moves sometimes, but not all the time. So I get what you're saying. Like
Yeah.
it's especially if somebody's open, it's just free damage that you pass off for no reason. But if you're board wiping and you're trying to get on the good side of the person who has nothing, do you really want to attack them too? Because then you just piss them off while you pissed off the person that you're board wiping for.
I still hate wasting the damage. I hate it. But that's as a person who likes beating people in the face and killing them on turn 6 to 8. So,
Some of that's a little bit meta though, because there are people who'll be like, "No, you hit me. I'm gonna hit you back. Like I have to hit you back because you hit me. It doesn't matter that it
so you
was
mean you.
wasting damage or what."
So you mean you.
No, I just hit you whenever you're open. It doesn't matter whether you hit me first or not. If you hit me first and then somehow are open, yes, I'm gonna hit you. If you hit me first and somehow you're open and you continue to be open, why would I stop hitting you?
Stop hitting me. Stop hitting me. Put out a blocker, man. Put out a blocker.
That's another thing. People who like this should be probably the last thing so that we can wrap this up, but people who are
Sure.
like the I get hit, but instead of playing a blocker, like their commander for instance, they go and do like a ramp or a draw thing when they're not behind in lands and not behind in card advantage. It's like and then like complain like, "Oh, why did you hit me?" I'm like, you obviously didn't care the first time enough because I hit you, you didn't do anything about it. You did other stuff that was unrelated to stopping me from hitting you, so I'm going to hit you again." So I think a lot of that is like, and again, maybe in certain cases it's fine because you're setting up for later. It depends on like the game and a little bit about your deck and whatever, but don't be like, at least keep it in your head that you're opening the gates for people to hit you. Don't be like, "Oh, you shouldn't hit me. I'm not doing anything." Yeah, but you're also not blocking, and I have a creature that can hit you, and I'm not, especially if I have other blockers up for other people's creatures.
Well, I'll have times I'll do it like facetiously because I'll be like even in the game on Friday, I was playing, good old Angus McKenzie, Mr. Super Frog himself. I'm just like, why are you hitting me right now? And he's like, because if I don't hit you now, I might not get a chance to hit you. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's like, I already knew why you were hitting me. I just wanted you to express it out loud.
Angus.
Angus.
Can we talk
Angus.
about why he's like $1 billion?
Limited printing.
I'm printing my ass. Anyway. But if I wasn't gonna block with my commander anyways, it is still a blocker. You could bluff it. You can turn around and be like, "Hey, I just don't want to take damage." It's also dependent on like what your commander does. So if your commander has like an ETB or if you have like a recursion heavy deck, you could bluff that you were gonna block it. I guess that's the thing. Oh, reserve list, is that what it is? Angus is a reserve list card?
Yeah.
I don't have a
And there weren't a lot of copies printed for him to begin with.
well, yeah, now they can't reprint him because he's on the reserve list. Pay attention, Frexine. This week or next Monday, come back while we talk about.
But he's 3H legal, so
yeah,
if you want to get in a great format.
Next week we talk about why the reserve list is bad for everybody. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no. I'll quit the show before that.
No, I stay away from this topic as much as possible. But all right, I think that sums up a good bunch of stuff.
I mean, we probably didn't hit everything. I'm sure we weren't completely all inclusive.
We only have an hour.
We only have an hour, and that gives you a chance to go back and watch the podcast and tell us what we did wrong, what we didn't talk about, we should have talked about. And we love your constructive criticism.
There's always the potential for a part 2. Let that be said. If there's ever a topic that people really like and they're like, "Oh, but you didn't talk about this part of that topic," send us a message on the Discord or like me on Twitter or email us or on YouTube or on the podcast platform of your choice and we could talk about it again. Because again, like an hour is not enough to encapsulate all these topics, especially when there's formerly 3, now only 2 of us because Magical Hacker is fired for MIA.
I mean, that and like here we are, and we thought, like, starting this out, I really thought, hey, we might have a hard time filling an hour. DM's like, yeah, we might, and then here we are. We went an hour over pretty easily. We found things to talk about on this topic. We rabbit trailed a little bit here and there, but we came back to it.
Those sweet plays. Stolen strategy, man. Sweet
Stolen
card.
strategy. It
Stolen
is. I really like
strategy
that card. I
into
really do like the
Gen
direction
Wave.
that red is going.
Yeah. We should do that one day. That should just be a topic. Just talking about the changes for red and white. Because I think they are the most different colors from like 5 years ago.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Maybe that'll be a
Like
future
green,
topic.
black, and blue still do about the same thing as they did, but red and white have definitely had some shifting.
Yeah. I feel like green, black, and blue just do what they've always done, but better. Because, like, obviously there's power creep. And then white and red are like, here's this new stuff. Does it work? And some of it's like, yeah, stolen strategy. Yeah, it friggin' works. When the Rakdos deck Gen Waves for 12, you're doing something right. And almost kills everybody. You didn't talk about how having an audience changes play patterns. That's something we could talk about one day. But I think that's kind of a behind the curtain style of podcast. Not that I'm against that, but it's something that I think Phyrexian. Oh no, I guess Hacker does his own streaming now, so he has a lot to say. But I was gonna say like me and Phyrexian would probably dominate that conversation because I think we both do a lot of it. I don't know about you, but I play a little differently when I'm streaming.
I try to kill people even faster.
That's a lie. That is a
When I have
lie.
when I have an audience, I'm really trying to kill people by turn 4. I just don't get
Unless
there all the time.
unless it's an infinite combo, in which case you throw it away only to lose.
In
To
which
another
case,
one.
I throw it away and say, "Oh gosh," and then lose to one later.
well,
Still love Rydog though. I don't want him to think I don't love him.
well, if Rydog were to want to love you, how would he reach you on social media there, Frexing?
He would not, because social media is. I'm not gonna say it again. I'll just offend more people. But yeah, I just don't do social media. We'll leave it at that. But if you want to find me, I'm on the Discord. So hit me up on
Adam.
the Discord.
Adam all
At
day.
me.
1 o'clock in the
Don't.
morning.
Jeez, I won't respond at 1 o'clock in the
Two
morning.
o'clock in the morning.
I actually won't respond at the school anymore either because they blocked Discord on our school Wi-Fi because they're awful people.
Hey man, get it on your phone.
I mean, it is. I can't afford to waste all my data on Discord all day long.
No, unlimited data.
Yeah, that's expensive on Verizon.
Fair enough. Trust me, I know. All right. In that case, you can find Praetor Magic all over social media. We're at youtube.com/Praetor Magic, facebook.com/Praetor Magic, twitter.com/Praetor Magic, twitch.tv/Praetor Magic, instagram.com/Praetor Magic, and you can, of course, find this podcast on a whole bunch of platforms. I can't always name them all, but I'm going to try. LibSyn, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podcast Addict.
And if we decide out of the gracious benevolence of our hearts to rehire Magical Hacker, he has all those things too. At Magical Hacker, all the stuff.
His links will be in either the audio description below or, of course, the video description below. You can find the video on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and share. If you share a video from the YouTube with the hashtag or the podcast with the hashtag MOCL on any social media, it gets us closer to our giveaway where when we hit, now it's 400 subscribers on YouTube, we're going to give away 2 Commander versus Playmats from our friends over at Star City Games. I have to still send out the ones from 300, but I'm going to do that eventually, even though we're at 350 now. And then we're going to do that again when we're at 500. Don't you click your tongue at me. Must be outside your damn mind. There was a holiday. There was snow days. It was almost a national emergency.
I couldn't resist. It got the great reaction too. It was beautiful.
There's also a Discord which you could join via the link down below. It is unfortunately not discord.gg/praetormagic because that would just be too easy. But until next time, guys, I will be live on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for a deck brewing for 3DH, my 32 challenge. I have one deck done. It's my Rishkar deck that I played on Friday. We're going to brew another deck this Wednesday, and then Friday we're going to try it out in a couple of games. If you want to be in the games, sign up via the Discord. There is in the 3DH channel, in the pinned messages, there is a sign-up sheet. Put your Discord and your MTGO name there, and you will reserve your spot for the Friday games. But until next time, guys, I think that's all that we have for y'all. Any last words from the Phyrexian one?
I did a 32 deck challenge in season 1. Just saying.
Listen here.
Took you to season 4.
I have a lot of things to do, okay? I write articles. I have to edit this video for next Monday. God damn it, we're out of here. I'm done.
Good
All right.
night.
Peace.